Got it.
All right.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thrilled to see everybody and to be on here again. Forgive my looking back and forth. This is kind of off for me. But the point is you see my slides and can hear me. So that's what we're going to focus on. I did a webinar as part of the new coordinators series a few weeks ago. An overview of the ABFM and registering for the ITE and some basics. And so if any of you were in that one, you're going to see some familiar slides. So I don't mean to be redundant, but just considering my two audiences, I want to make sure. See, there's Mike right there. Mike was on last time too. So Mike's going to see some redundancy. So just bear with me, okay? I do have points in doing these things. Okay, so I'm going to get right off here. About me, I don't have to read to you. You just need to know that I've been working in graduate medical education since 1999. Had the honor and privilege of being on the AFMA board for 2 terms and even got to be the president. And that was probably the single most proud and joyful thing I had ever done in my life. And so I will forever anytime AFMA asks me for something, I definitely will be there to provide it. My passion is educating and mentoring coordinators and their professional development and their well-being. So just wanted to give you a little background now. Our objectives for today, when you finish today, I want you to be able to create reports from the ABFM on your ITE performance to help the program. I want you to be able to provide data to your program directors, your faculty members for planning of didactics and education experiences. And I want you to be able to assist faculty, mentors, and residents in development of meaningful and visualized learning plans. So no big deal, right? So while we're going to focus on the ITE, I want to just go over, anybody that knows me knows that I always like to go over the rules and the why. Because my favorite quote is, who has a why can accomplish any how. So want to know why I'm focused on this. Directly from the family medicine requirements under program evaluation improvement, again, not going to read to you, but we have to have an annual program evaluation done by the program evaluation committee that documents continuous improvement processes in our programs. I talked to a program director recently who made a comment. He didn't know why he's got AFIs and citations because he's been running this program the same for 20 years and it's a great program. He hasn't made any changes in 20 years and he doesn't see why he needs to because the quality of the education is great. Well, that may be true, but as we all know, the ACGME's focus really is on program improvement and continuous improvement. And so keeping up with requirements is a big deal. We want to make sure that our program improvement is based on outcomes. And the ITE definitely gives us some outcomes. And, it's all about achieving our mission, educating and training quality physicians. One of the things that I keep hearing, how do you get the residents to take the ITE seriously? How do you get the faculty to take it seriously? Performance of the residents and faculty members is a reflection of program quality. I mean, and that in itself should be good enough reason for anybody. So I would keep that sentence handy and a regular part of your vocabulary. As part of our program evaluation and APE each year, 2 of the things that have to be assessed are our curriculum and our aggregate achievement on the in-training exams. And of course, then board pass rates and certification rates. It's all connected. It's all connected. So, from our ITE results that may tell us we need to make some curriculum changes. We can determine where our shortcomings are, not just with our residents, but with our program as well. So back to the ABFM residency training management system. This is the screen that you want to go to get your ITE results, to be able to do some item analysis, and of course to register each year for the ITE. This is an actual result that Annette, bless her heart, was kind enough to let me into her RTM to get some screenshots and some data for you. And the ABFM lets you know right up front what the content of the ITE is. So that's your first indication of what your didactics should look like. You know, if their biggest, you know, obviously, you know, the thing about family medicine is it's a little bit of everything. And you know, this plainly shows you that multiple topics are covered in the ITE. But if you'll notice, they put heavier emphasis on cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, and respiratory. And so when you step back and look at your didactics, your primary focuses on your didactics should be cardiovascular topics, musculoskeletal topics, and respiratory topics. So that's the first place for you to look from a program perspective, is to see what your didactics are covering in relation to how it matches the ABFM ITE. And of course, these are precursors to the board certification exam. So again, one thing leads to another. It's all connected. So to best prepare your residents for their certifying exam is paying attention to these details and these blueprint categories. And on that note, blueprint categories, organ systems and blueprint categories are the areas of the exam that they show you where their emphasis is and what those questions are. And then they also give you a clinical category, but as you see, they don't provide as much information about the makeup of the exam based on, but depending on what your focus is, they give you both aspects as far as how the exam is broken down, okay? Now, on your ITE exam results, obviously this is where you go. This is the screen where you go to get your results each year. Remembering, of course, that they do email the results directly to the residents at the email address you have in their ABFM profile. And we know our residents tell on themselves, because when they walk in and say, hey, I heard so-and-so got his ITE results and I don't have mine. Well, talk to a resident that doesn't check his email. Imagine that. But I always am happy to print results for people. Sometimes I get a really eager resident who wants to compare this year and last year. So yes, I'll print both of them for them. Anything to help them focus on their performance and their improvement. And so from each year in this screen, in this drop down, you can go to any year. It goes back, I don't know, 10 or 15 years that you can get results. So from a resident perspective, it's only the last 3 years, of course, tops that would make a difference to them. But from a program perspective, you can go back multiple years and see your results. And you can sort them by those blueprint categories and see. And this is where my other blue arrow here on this page, this is where you see you can print, you can get the results per category, so that you know if there's certain areas that your residents as a whole have not performed as well in than others, so that you'll know. And again, curriculum, is your curriculum supporting? Is there something wrong with your curriculum resulting in your residents not performing well on that aspect of the test? Or, you know, is it individual resident? You know, but this is data that you can make those determinations. There's multiple reports here that can be run. And so any data that you can give your program director or whoever, their faculty advisors, whoever needs it, I think that anybody involved in didactics needs to know how their residents are performing so that, you know, they can shape their presentation if they know what they're, you know, not doing as well in, or knowing, you know, whatever the case may be. I think it helps any faculty member in crafting their presentation to know what his audience, where his audience knowledge level is. And so this is data that you can definitely help them. And of course, just going back to the basics, your mean scale graph report, that's the picture that compares you by class to the rest of the country. Your score data is in these. You can get them either Excel or text. And then the different categories that you can sort by. And then, of course, the exam itself and the critique book are provided for you as well. And I will tell you, I print those documents every year and keep them on file so that when we are discussing things, we can easily go back and pull data from the exams. And I do want to focus on, under printable reports here, your exam results password. When you click on any of these reports, you're going to have to enter a password. And this is the password. The digits that are there for your program is what you will enter. You'll get a little pop-up screen and you'll need to enter those. Okay. But this is the source of all the data that you can get for your program for improvement. Okay. And here's the fun one that I always like to play with, is I like to know who missed what. And so the Examalizer, if anybody knows Tom O'Neill from the ABFM and sat through any of his presentations, he is the data geek, and he's fabulous. But he makes data available to us, as, you know, in multiple formats. So on this screen, you are able to run reports. And again, this is a screenshot, so it's locked in. But when you click on the first one, select a program, a report for a single program or for all programs, you can do just your program, or you can do all programs as a comparison, and get your data there. You can get, I call it, you know, this is the most missed questions. I personally, maybe I'm a negative Nelly, I don't know, but I've never sorted for right answers. I've always gone for the wrong answers. And so the way this one is set up, this is going to give you all those questions there where at least 50% of the total of your residents got the question wrong. And so again, those are indicators for your faculty, for your program, for your curriculum, for your didactics, whatever the case may be. If half your residents are getting questions wrong, that needs to be taken, you know, take a good hard look at that. You know, you obviously select the year, you know, which results you're looking at. You can do it for all years. You can pick 1 year, however you want to do it. You just set the parameters and then you get a report. One of the things, if I were queen for a day and could make any changes to this, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat and waited for a report to download, only to realize I forgot to go back and reset it to my program and not all programs. So know that it always defaults to all programs, and yes, you have to reset it every time to get that data. So, like I say, nobody's made me queen for a day. So for now, know that it defaults. Okay. And here's an example of some cardiovascular questions that you'll see. I believe in this program, they had 18 residents, and you'll see under cardiovascular, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions were missed by a significant number of residents. And like M123, 16 out of 18 residents, all their PGY1s, all their PGY2s, and all but 2 of their PGY3s missed that question. That's an indicator. You know, look at, you know, your program, your faculty, they need to look at that. You know, what are we not teaching that? Are they assuming that they're getting this information on a rotation? But the one thing we've learned is we can't really assume. And same thing if you see down across the board, oh, she's got more than, because down here there's 20 residents missed one of the questions. So like I say, you can sort them by these categories. And sometimes your faculty, in our case, we had certain faculty, they had certain topic areas that were their specialties. So like one faculty member took care of all the OB stuff, and another faculty took care of all this. And so sharing this information with your faculty, the people that are doing your didactics, your PEC, the people that are looking at your curriculum, all of this is important for them to know. And you can sort it by all those different blueprint categories and get all the specifics. And you can sort it back on the previous screen where I had it set for 50%. You can do it by 75% if you're not worried if 50% of your residents are missing something. To me, being the non-clinical outsider that's been doing this for a long time, I think if 50% of your residents are missing something, it's an issue for your program. So it's just a great way to show what that looks like, what the results are, and should give an indication to your leadership of some changes that might be made, need to be made with either your curriculum or your didactics, or maybe even both. Okay, and again, just following up, just remembering that this is what that the total report looks like as far as comparing your program to the nationals. In this particular program's case, they're doing great. I can tell you I've seen some really bad things that are going the other way for a lot of programs. And so, like I say, it's an indicator. It's telling you what your program is teaching your residents or what they are learning on as part of the program. And I know, I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had. Nobody takes the ITE seriously. Nobody, the results aren't really reflective because it's just, an exercise. Well, shame on your program if your residents and your faculty have that opinion or have that feeling, if that is what is being modeled by your faculty to your residents. It's just, this is an opportunity for growth, and if we're not taking advantage of it, shame on everybody that's not doing that. So again, ITE results, you need to analyze them. So using all the tools that I showed you, all the different ways you can do it for individual residents, you can do it per class. Maybe you've made a change in your curriculum 2 years ago and you want to see if there's a difference in the results of the ITE exam 2 years later. You can do it by class to know when curricular changes were implemented. You need to analyze for the whole program from a curriculum perspective. Those most missed questions is the most telling, indicating thing I can think of. And of course, the categories that they're broken down by. That should be an indicator for you. The ITE results from a resident's perspective, they should be reviewed by with their advisor. They should update and drive the individual learning plan that all the residents are required to have. It should drive growth. If your residents are not performing well on your in-training exam from year to year, that's a program problem. That's not the resident's problem as much. I mean, obviously it indicates they're not learning, but our responsibility is to create an environment where they do learn and they do grow. So resident growth is a huge indicator for the effectiveness of our curriculum and our didactics. Your program evaluation committee should be reviewing ITE results. That's one of the requirements. And through this, they should update curriculum. It drives didactics, and it's an overall program improvement method. That it's, like I said, it's data. It's hard to get data. You look at a resident sometime and you think they know, that you think they understand, but you don't know till they're in that situation where they're tested or have to perform. And we sure would rather find out on a test that they didn't get it than in the middle of treating somebody. So use these opportunities and these tools to improve your program as best you can. And don't forget to use your ITE. Like in this program, the results we just looked at, they should be plastering that information that they are so far above the national averages with all their applicants. It should be on their website. They should be really touting the fact that they have that kind of results amongst their residents. It shows that that it's a good program, the curriculum is sound, the didactics are sound, and it's a good reason for somebody to come to your program, is because of the performance and the growth of the residents. One of the things that we did in my last program, we had an award every year at graduation for the senior, the graduating resident. We gave our residents the previous year's in-training exam as part of orientation, which I know most of you do. But I kept track of that grade and each grade from each year. And we gave an award, an academic achievement award every year to the resident who had the largest growth, the biggest significance in their test scores. So like I say, it's just a way of rewarding and recognizing the value that the program placed on the ITE is another way of showing that it is in fact important. So there's lots of great ideas out there of how to do that. Okay. And again, just focusing back on your program improvement, those curricular changes, again, we don't know what happens on these rotations elsewhere, so what are they learning? And if you're not monitoring your in-training exams to see how your residents are covered on that, the experience, it's not a required rotation. They just have to have the experience. So how do you know if they're getting, what's the content of that experience? How are they meeting the requirements? Are they getting what they need? And the answer there is look at their ITE results, because that's one of the things that's hard fact data that they know and how they're performing. Okay. From the common program requirements, the program director or their designee with input from the CCC must assist residents in developing an individualized learning. All the residents, every single resident has to have an ILP. Okay, that's one of the new requirements. A lot of the other specialties have had as a requirement for many years. Family medicine this past year was the first time everybody has to have one. In my day, they only got an ILP if they had bad results on the training exam or were struggling somewhere else. It was like the precursor to a remediation plan. But now, no, it is everybody has to have a learning plan to capitalize on their strengths and identify their areas for growth. Again, the ITE results, what better way to show where they need to grow. And develop plans for residents failing to progress following institutional policies and procedures. So those are the common program requirements. Everybody has to have one. From the family medicine requirements, here's another one that in looking at why the ITE is important. It used to be that the programs were the ones that said our residents are going to take this exam. It was not required. It now is. So I don't know how much better to say it's important because it's an ACG requirement. You have to do it. And if you're the type that just takes it and colors in dots and leaves it at that, that's on that resident. That's not on the program. But everybody has to take the exam. And again, we have to create and document the ILP. At least annually, they have to be re-looked at. So after the in-training exam, if you don't do anything else, after the in-training exam is a good time to document and looking at that between the advisor and the resident. Provide a system to assist residents in the individualized learning plan process. Here is the way, what I've showed you.
Hey Cheryl, I think you're frozen on the screen and we can't hear you anymore.
Did everybody hear that? I didn't touch anything, I swear. You all see my hands are up here flailing around. Okay. So like I say, these are requirements. It's not optional. This all has to happen. And using your ITE results are a great way to meet those requirements and have some good documentation that you in fact are meeting those. And oh, by the way, it helps your residents to improve and use their results and their maybe some shortcomings to do better. And same thing, you know, now that they've got 6 electives and the ILP is designed to help decide what those electives are. If you've got somebody not doing well in those 3 core topics, cardio, MSK, and respiratory, what better indicator that they need to make sure they use some of their electives on those topics. So like I said, sometimes you just have to, we're so caught up in all the details and all the little stuff and the next deadline and the next requirement that sometimes it's hard to take a step back and look at the big picture. But the ITE results are a great way, a big picture item to meet a lot of your requirements and help your residents as they grow. On the individual learning plan, again, it's a great way to document your system. Using underperforming categories, your plans to address that, you know, that underperformance. You know, is it going to be an elective? Are there some resources out there? Are there some online things that you know that may need to that the resident may need to be looking at? But that's between the faculty advisor and the resident to come up with those and put it down. But the point is that we not only do they progress, but they are successful and they're set up for graduation on time, passing their board certification exam. Those are the tests. That's what says about our program, what's good. You know, that's if you keep having residents that have to be off cycle because of performance and not eligible to take their exams because they didn't meet the requirements, those types of things. Yeah, it's on the resident to a point, but it's a little on the program too. So you need to be looking at those things to see how it looks from the outside, the big picture. Okay. And don't forget, this is a big don't forget, if you're going to adapt, if you're not doing some of this stuff and that you're going to start doing that, or whatever ideas that you have, don't forget in web ads, in your major changes section, one of the things that I have learned most since I have left active program administration and in the consulting now is the importance of that major changes section. I can tell you there were 2 years when I was the institutional coordinator that we actually checked the block that there were no changes this year. And why we didn't get site visits, I don't know, because that was wrong. Like I said in the beginning, the ACGME is focused on continuous improvement. And for you to put on there that there's no changes, that's just an open invitation for them to really look at you and say, well, why haven't you changed anything? And the program director that I'm working with, it says I haven't changed anything in 20 years. Why should I? Well, he's finding out why. Okay. But the major changes section is your opportunity. You know, everything else is fill in the blank. You know, we put in the procedures, we put in the diagnoses, we put in the number of deliveries, we put in all these numbers. And that's all it is numbers. The one opportunity that you have to physically talk to your review committee about what's going on in your program is through your major changes section every year in web ads. So use that. So if you decide to, you know, if you're not doing some of these things and decide to adapt those, document them in your major changes. Hey, this is what we decided to do. This is how we did it. And it's okay to say, you know, because nothing, you know, very few things work right the first time we try them. So it's a process. They want to see a continuous improvement. Show them what you did. If it didn't work, say, hey, we didn't anticipate this. We tried this. It didn't work for this reason. So we changed in this. Talk to your review committee and let them know what you're doing in your programs for continuous improvement. And because that's what they're looking for. They want to make sure that you're taking obviously seriously, that you are constantly reworking your program for the best possible outcome for your residents. And so make sure that you use that web ads version, like that web ads section for any change that you make. I mean, I'm talking today about your ITE results, but today that may be my focus. But if there's any other possible things you could put in your major changes section. So in anything that you have done in the name of improvement or with the idea of improvement. Put it in there, document it. Now, don't air your dirty linen. Don't give every gory detail. Suffice it to say that ITE results were not what we had hoped. You don't have to say that they didn't take it seriously and the faculty thought it was a joke. The faculty think it's worthless. All those things that we sometimes deal with and hear. So be deliberate and be smart in what you put in your major changes section. But the point is to make sure that you share with the review committee what you're doing to be better. And that is what they're looking for. And, and even if it doesn't work like you thought it was going to the first time, okay, but at least you're trying and documenting. And so maybe next year's major changes section is going to be part 2, that you learn from this, that this was an unintended consequence we didn't consider. So we've made this change and this is what we're doing this year. And just keep working at it till you get it right, until it's working for your program. But that's what that major changes section is about. It's about program improvement. That's what they want to know, what you're doing, that you're actively working to improve your programs and what you're doing to do that. Okay? And can you believe it? Anybody that was on my webinar last time, I went like 15 minutes over because I talked too much. So I was very, this time I'm short. So we got plenty of time to talk. But I was very careful to not go over time again. So we have plenty of time for questions. Anybody got any questions? This group doesn't have questions. You got to be kidding me.
Cheryl, I just want to say thank you for presenting. As always, you do wonderfully. And I just wanted to say, I totally have never used that reporting section. So we will be using that now. We usually just look at the blue lines, and when people are significantly lower below the score, we do that. But I'm going to look at that 50% off wrong questions now. Thank you.
It's really telling. I mean, it's really surprising. And then for me, because you know how it is, as coordinators, we think we know the ones that are on the ball, that have it together and talk a mean streak, and we think they're all together and have it. Sometimes it's really, really telling to look at these because you can go look specifically at each resident and look. And one of the things that I was always frustrated with my program about is we got the results, we did big board prep, we did all kinds of stuff to prepare them for the exam. But then when somebody didn't do well, or or there was I revealed a shortcoming somewhere, I never felt like our faculty did a good job of going back to the residents and saying, you missed this question. Why did you answer it the way that you did? And I know time is a big commodity, and those things are difficult. But sometimes we learn more in that they answered the question incorrectly. When you have large groups answering it incorrectly, why? Where's the misunderstanding? What piece are we missing that would make them answer that question like they did, and not get it correct, you know. And some of it is on the residents, of course it's on the residents, but it's not all on the residents. You know, when you got that many people missing a question, I think there's more to it than that resident. Okay. So like I say, I over the years I have got charts and spreadsheets and spreadsheets of data on my residents. And one of my clients since then, I was really struggling with ITE scores. And again, they'd not looked at it. They got their they got their results and they gave them to the residents, and that's kind of the end of the discussion. And so the missed opportunities were tremendous. And they got into the situation they were in because of missed opportunities. And so making sure that everyone is aware, because nobody teaches you this stuff. I'm telling you, I was there for 20 years, and there was never, nobody ever taught me about the ABFM. I figured it out on my own. And a lot of our frustrations and our dissatisfactions with our positions, as challenging as they are, is in the fact that nobody told me and nobody taught me. And we've got some really good tools out there and resources. The WWAMI network does a great job. A lot of the states have networks for educating their coordinators, and that's wonderful. But this stuff is not intuitive. You have to know where to go, how to do things. And, when we work in a clinical world, the first time I went to somebody and said, hey, do you know that all your residents missed this question? And well, what was the question? And I couldn't even pronounce the words correctly to make him understand what the question was, So I was really out on my own there, but I learned a few things, and they got used to it, and they would, that got some of the faculty more involved in the process. So, but like I say, we've been taking tests all of our lives, and that's how we measure what we know. And if these things are saying we don't know what we need to know, when a third year class, everybody but 2 people in that class get a question wrong, it's like, whoa, who's looking at this? So anyway, that's my soapbox. What else? What other questions do we have?
No questions on the chat.
Are you kidding me?
Did a good job explaining it.
Well, but I guess I'm giving you a gift of 20 minutes back in your day that you.
Oh, wait, here we got one. Hang on.
Got one. Right.
Says, what if you have a resident on leave of absence during the ITE exam? Are they exempt from the ITE exam, or do we need to administer it on paper ourselves after they return?
With the new, that's a good question, because it used to be, oh, Lisa's got her hand up. She's had this happen. Lisa, what's the official answer?
We always give it to them in paper and then hand score it once we get the handbook back with the questions that have been excluded.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, and that's one thing I meant to tell you. When the results are in nationally, before they are released, the ABFM does go back and look, because every once in a while there's a couple of questions that get thrown out because, if for me to say if all your residents missed it, there's something wrong with the education. If too many people miss the question, the ABFM says, well, maybe it wasn't a good question. Some of them do get thrown out. So when you're looking at your stuff, if that magic number of 240 questions is now 238, it's because they threw out a couple of questions. Okay. So yeah, that's a good point, Lisa, and thank you. But yeah, I mean, we never, when leave of absences, that's a whole different ball game that you have to work around. But in our program, we just said there was no PTO allowed the 3rd week of November. So that, now, and especially now that it's required, my program always put a big emphasis on the ITE and the results. And so we just said no PTO that week, or after the schedule was done, because I administered the ITE twice that week. On Monday afternoon from 3 till 7, half of our inpatient team and our night float people took the exam on Monday evening. And then the other half of the inpatient team stayed in the hospital until the 19 got there. Okay. Then on Thursday morning, the traditional day, the night float team and the half of the team that had already taken the exam stayed Thursday morning to cover the service and get the patients rounded on and everything for the other half of the team to come take their test. And of course, that's when, once we got all that established, invariably there, somebody come to me and say, hey, my sister's getting married that weekend. I really wanted to leave Thursday and stuff. And so we looked to see if we could, if that resident was available to take the exam Monday evening with that group. And so we did have some flexibility there. But there was no blanket, nobody took the entire third week of October off, because we made sure, because, no, those have to be proctored, and you want to give it as few times as possible, but everybody needs to take it. And so you protect yourself. So, but that's another thing of thinking about how to place importance on it. If you've got it on your schedules in July when they start, and they see that date, and your policy says no PTO that week, it's telling them it's a big deal. Okay, so they take it a little bit more seriously. So it's how you model it that has is a big factor in their perception of the exam as well. So yeah, so to answer your question, do it on paper. The results will never be included in your program statistics. You'll always be one short for your statistics, but at least you will have the data for your resident. And now you will have met the requirement that everybody has to take. Okay.
And we keep a running score so we can see from year to year. We have a spreadsheet that shows from year to year how each of the residents have done. And so we do include the hand scored score in those reports, so they never miss a year.
Just reading comments. Okay. And it's okay to tell the residents no, it might hurt their feelings, but it is okay to have some standards and have some rules, and just say no. You can't take PTO that week. And like I said, every once in a while we'd have some big life event, something that that would throw a kink in the works, but you learn about the integrity of your residents if they come to you in advance and say, hey, got a problem, need to work out something else. And we, of course, do our best to work out and make sure that everybody gets everything gets covered and taken care of, and everybody gets taken. But because they want a trip to Vegas that weekend, it's not really a good reason to miss the exam. Have some standards, show how important it is, and hold them. That standard, my bottom line on residents is hold their feet to the fire. These are physicians we're talking about. They're going to be taking care of your mom. Have some standards. Okay. Okay. Anybody else got any questions? No. Sorry, I didn't take the whole time, but it kind of balances out between my two. That I took 15 minutes over last time. So, for those of you that attended both, we're even. Okay. But yeah, happy to answer any questions. There's my email address and my cell phone number. If you need anything, by all means, let me know. Hope to see everybody at RAD actually in just a few weeks, really. And can't wait to see everybody, and reach out if I can help in any way.
Got a comment. Thank you, Cheryl. This was informative. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Like I say, some of those things that you wish you'd been told, I base a lot of my presentations these days on what I wish somebody told me that I didn't have to figure out on my own. And so that's my whole focus in working with coordinators and you know, being willing to do webinars and presentations.
Amy's asking when RAD and RLS are. Amy, RAD and LRS at the end of March. So I believe we start on, what is it, the 24th? Hang on, let me get the date.
That's what I thought. She had just said she'll see us in a couple of weeks at RAD, and I was just making sure it's in March, right?
It is
my first time.
When you get old, time just kind of runs.
Okay.
So March 24th through the 27th. RAD is the 23rd.
It's before, yeah.
Yep, it's the day before RLS starts. So RAD is the 23rd of March, and then RLS is the 24th through the 27th.
Yeah. So I will see you in 8 weeks.
All right, thank you.
I'll be more specific next time. I'm just excited to see everybody. I wish it was in 2 weeks. But anyway, and then the other opportunity, Becky and I were just talking, and this is just like a blatant plug, and it's tacky, but okay, you know, you all know me. The ACOF, the osteopathic side of the Family Medicine House, is they have a workshop for program director faculty development every year. It's virtual, and they have a Saturday afternoon session just for coordinators. For years, they called it the coordinator happy hour and then wondered why nobody came. But anyway, but it is a professional development for the coordinators. And I will be presenting at that. So any of you that have osteopathic recognition, register and join us because it's some good discussion. Okay. And that's coming up. It's in February. It's mid-February. Becky, you just registered. When is it the 11th? The coordinator thing is the 11th of February. Is that Saturday? I don't have a calendar.
It is the I thought it was the 9th through the 11th.
Yeah, but the coordinator thing is on Saturday.
Is on the Saturday. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So Saturday afternoon. So anyway, blatant plug, whatever. Anytime there's an opportunity to talk to coordinators and help them out, I'm all about it. So it's all about networking and learning from each other.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming.